Hey, it's Laura Wilkins from Ears Only Audio. Thank you so much for coming back and watching another video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share with a friend if you're enjoying it. I'm really excited about the video today. A very dear friend of mine came in to record a song. We co-wrote it together, and I produced it, engineered it, mixed it, played a few of the guitars. And anyway, I'm really proud of how this song came out. And my buddy Alan gave an amazing vocal performance and wrote an incredible lyric for this song. It's called Call Me Home. The artist's name is Alan Camp. And if you enjoy it, as we're doing a little bit of a mix breakdown, please look at the links in the description of this video. There's a link to iTunes and Google Play. And if you want to, you can stream it on Spotify. But please do support independent music and go out and get this record. You will not regret it at all. And what I want to do is I just want to kind of show you some of the mix moves that I did here. And it's very interesting because I actually mixed this primarily on console 1, which is this little guy right here. This controls a piece of software, the console 1 plugin, which is the one that comes with it, is emulation of an SSL 4000 E series channel strip. But what I did with this is I didn't actually open up the plugin to have VoiceOver tell me all the moves I was making. I just knew that where my kick drum was and where my snare drum was and whatever, and I hit the corresponding button and did my EQ and compression just by listening to the music, not by getting any feedback whatsoever from VoiceOver. So literally, I'm going in blind. I can't see the screen, and I'm not taking any feedback from my screen reader as far as the basic EQ and compression moves that I'm making. And I want to show you some of the settings that I got, because some of the things that I thought sounded cool are a little on the extreme side, but I mean, you can't argue if they sound cool. It might look kind of weird, compared to some of the things that you might get taught online. But the only thing that matters is that it sounds cool. Nobody's going to look at your EQ curve. They are going to listen to the song and decide whether it sounds cool or not, whether it gives them an emotional response or not. And that should be your only thing. Nobody really gives a damn what your EQ curve looks like, as long as it sounds cool. All right, so what I want to do is I just want to play a little bit of this mix for you so you kind of have an idea of what the song sounds like, what's going to be going on in it. We're going to take it from the second chorus when everything's in. Okay, so just a good straight up rock, alt rock kind of song, and sounds pretty cool. It's got a little bit of aggression built in. It's got a little bit of space. It's got some melodic stuff going on the instruments. And now let's dive into Pro Tools and show you what the mix looks like. All right, let's first take a look at our master bus. I actually thought I had an initial EQ on here with just a very low high pass filter and a small cut around 500 hertz, but it does not seem to be here, so I must have taken it away. So the very first thing that I have on my master bus is the Avid emulation of a Pultec EQ.
Plugin.
And it's doing the Pultec
FXTD in FXTD.
Okay.
2.5 low boost parameter.
So we're boosting the low at 2.5 and we're cutting the same frequency
1.7.
by 1.7.
1.5 high
And
boost.
we're boosting the high by 1.5. No attenuation on the
0.30 hertz low frac.
high. The low that we're boosting and cutting is at 30 hertz.
5.0 bandwidth 16K high frac.
The high is at 16K. So this Pultec on the master bus really makes a huge, huge difference. Let's give a little listen, and I'll bypass it in and out. So this is with it on. hear that bottom end sort of round off a little bit, and you hear the top end really open up. This is a great plugin, and of course,
next to high low float save.
That Pultec thing that it does is just incredible.
Next win track keep group master 1. Master track.
Next in line we have an API 2500. This is not always my master bus compressor, but it this is a pretty aggressive rock track,
Plugin.
and I wanted something a little bit more colored for compression than what I normally use on my master bus. So the API 2500 seems to be a logical solution. Let's have a look at the settings here.
8.14 dB.
My threshold is at 8.1, whatever that, you know, it's. I have the threshold dialed in to get about 2 to 3 dB of gain reduction.
10 ms attack parameter.
We got a 10 millisecond attack, which is pretty fast. I normally don't go that fast on my master bus, but for this particular song and this particular style, it just sounded better to me than having like I would normally set this up at like a 30 millisecond attack.
4:1.
I'm also using a higher ratio than I normally use. We're using 4:1. The songs that I don't want to compress quite as aggressively on the master bus, I might have 1.5:1 or maybe 2:1. This one, like I said, I'm not getting a lot of gain reduction, but I wanted it to be really grabby. I wanted it to really make the music move just a little bit.
0.1 s release parameter.
Okay, we got 100 milliseconds release time.
0.50 med knee parameter.
Okay, the knee is set to medium, so that means it's not always compressing fully at 4:1. Again, a lot of times on my master bus compressor, I'll set the knee to soft, but I wanted this to be a little more aggressive, but I didn't want it to be a hard knee where every time it compresses at 4:1 regardless. So I wanted it to still have a little elasticity, a little flexibility.
Loud thrust parameter.
The thrust control on an API 2500 just determines how much of the bottom end you let through without triggering the compressor. It's almost like a filtering system here. So I have it set to loud, so it's letting lots of bass and kick drum through without triggering the compressor, which is good. You wouldn't want it to start pumping really heavily and stuff like that. I want it to move a little bit, but I don't want it to pump up and down every time the kick and the snare and the bass guitar hit. That would sound nasty. So I have that set to loud.
New type parameter.
And I have it in the new format, which is the feed forward. Now let's play it with it in, and then I'll bypass it so you can actually hear what this puppy's doing. So you hear it's really sort of gluing some things together, which helps your overall mix so much. I'm a proponent of top-down mixing, which means mixing at your master bus first, get the whole mix working together. You know, once you get a level balance and a pan balance, you know, it might change, it might shift a bit, but once you get close in that ballpark, you really start getting your master bus working so that all the instruments are working together. And then you go address groups of instruments. Like the next thing I addressed and the next thing we're going to cover here is the drums. And then I address the electric guitars. And then I address the strings or whatever, you know, before I address individual tracks. All right, we're going to solo up the drums here and just take a look at what's happening on these buses. This is just the overall drum sound, so you get an idea for what I'm going for. So we're a little aggressive. We're working it pretty good. Let's take a look
Track list drums.
at our regular drum bus first.
A. Pultec Eq P19.
We have our old friend Pultec.
Plugin. Pultec Eq P18 window. 3.5. Low boost.
This time we're doing a higher low boost than we did on our master bus.
2.4.
We're also doing a slightly higher low attenuation.
1.5. High boost.
Same amount of high boost.
0.60.
But our frequencies are a little different. We're going 60 hertz.
5.0. 10K.
And 10K.
10K. High frac attack.
So let's just sort of move that in and out a bit. So that really opens it up. That really gets it going.
Ignoring next key. High offloading with save.
Okay.
Drums. Aux track.
Next thing we have is
C. API 2500. B.
Let's see.
Console 1.
Oh, we have console 1 in here, but I don't think I actually did anything on that. So the next thing we have is the API 2500 again.
Plugin.
Now this pretty much lives on my drum bus. Okay. This is basically always here.
FXTB and Edit View. Plugin. In FXTB 3.04 dB thresh parameter.
Okay, so you notice my threshold is definitely pulled down a little bit more, but it's also a lower signal because it's just the drums coming to this.
30 ms attack parameter.
Slower attack time. We're going with a 30 millisecond attack.
2:1 ratio.
Just a 2-to-1 ratio.
0.1s release parameter.
Same release time, 100 milliseconds.
0.50 med knee parameter.
Medium knee again.
Loud thrust parameter.
Loud thrust. Let that kick drum get through without triggering the compressor
New
too much.
type parameter.
And it's the feed forward new type. So let's hit play, and this is with it in. And I'll pull it out.
Off. Off.
Maybe.
On. Off.
We're only getting about 1 dB of gain reduction, but it's really gluing our drum bus together quite nicely.
Ignoring next key press. High offload save.
The other thing that I have going on here is a parallel bus. I set up a pre-fader send
Drums. Aux track.
from drums
A. Drum crush.
to drum crush. Now, what do we have going on over at
Drum crush.
crush?
A.
We have
Fairchild 600
a Fairchild.
plugin.
These things are crazy. They're awesome.
FXTB. In
They're
FXTB.
very good at mangling sound. So as you can see,
10.1.
I have the input set around 10. So this is really emulating hitting those tubes and transformers pretty aggressively.
5.5.
5.5 is the threshold.
1. Time constant parameter.
Okay, it doesn't have an attack and release time on these Fairchilds. There's what's called the time constant. And there's a few different ones that you can choose from. I'm on 1, which is a pretty fast attack, pretty fast release.
0. Parameter.
Okay, this is actually getting about
Ignoring next key.
6
High offloading
dB
save.
of gain reduction. And let me just show you what happens when I take it away. This is with it on. Now, that adds a lot. And
Drums. Drum crush. Minus 19.4 dB.
I mean, my fader's at minus 19.4. I'm getting so much energy out of that hyper compressed parallel bus that I just pulled the fader all the way down and then moved it up until it felt good, and it's at minus 19. So again, here's the regular drum bus without the parallel compression. Add it in. Now let's just listen to the compressed bus, because this is crazy. It's back to the regular. Both in. So that's how we start getting drums to all kind of sound like one cohesive instrument, like it's all glued together and it feels good. It feels right. And that's what we want to go for is something that just really works together rather than having a kick drum and then a snare drum and then a tom and then a cymbal, right? We're really trying to make sure that, all right, let's move on to the kick and the snare. So the first plugin in line on our kick drum is Real Tape Saturation by Avid. It's literally just set to the kick drum preset. It just gives us a little bit of grit, a little bit of
plugin,
harmonic saturation and compression. Let's bounce it in and out just so you can hear the difference. It's in.
off, on,
It's out. Bring it back in.
off,
It's pretty subtle what it does, but
ignoring next key,
I
hide
like
also
having
windows,
a
mix,
little bit of
calling
extra
down on
impact on my kick drum, and the tape saturator seems to
kick,
do
0,
that for me. The next thing we have in line
C,
is
plugin, console 1,
console 1. Let's see what I did. I don't even know what I did on here.
FXTB embedded view, plugin, in FXTB, 0.0 off kilohertz, high cut parameter.
Okay.
You are currently 28 hertz, low cut parameter.
We're low cutting at 28 hertz.
Off, felt normal, phase invert on, shape on, parameter, 49.8 dB, shape
Okay,
gate.
we got a little gating going on,
Soft,
obviously.
0.0 points on, EQ on, parameter, bell, EQ 60 hertz, EQ low,
60 hertz.
9.5 dB, EQ
Woo!
low gain, parameter.
We're boosting 9.5 dB at 60 hertz. Apparently I wanted a little bottom end. Well, baby. Sounds cool. I don't really care.
0.1.2, EQ low mid Q, parameter. You are currently on the parameter.
Then at
0.42 kilohertz, EQ
420 kilohertz,
4.4 dB.
we're
EQ
taking about, almost 4.5, 4.4 dB out there.
4.0 kilohertz, EQ high mid frequency,
The high mid, we're going to be boosting 4K. This is pretty standard.
1.0, EQ high mid 8.2 dB, EQ
We got a lot of it, though. 8.2.
shelf, each 8.0 kilohertz, EQ
And we're
high
boosting a lot of 8K.
4.0 dB,
Yeah,
EQ
14 dB of 8K. Let's hear it without the EQ. Not a bad kick drum sound. Let's put it in.
on,
Take it out.
off, on,
Yeah, it definitely gets a little more hyped up, and that's what I wanted for this song. As far as the compression goes, I'm not getting much.
on the parameter,
I'm doing a fairly slow attack, 30 milliseconds, and fast to medium release. I think we're going at about 140, 150 milliseconds. And I'm adding a little extra saturation, that sort of SSL drive. I'm driving the channel a little bit harder. Softtube says that if you put your drive knob at 5, you sort of emulate the amount of saturation that most people get when they're mixing back, into it, when they're running the tracks back into the SSL console for mixing. You achieve that with 5 on your saturation knob on the console 1. I am saturating this, I believe, at 5.7. And I'm not getting a whole lot of compression. I'm sort of letting the kick drum... First off, Laura Wilkins, who played drums on this, played it pretty consistent, and the dynamics that she has on it I really like. Second off, it's getting compressed a little bit at the 2500 on the drum bus. It's getting compressed a lot on the Fairchild, on the parallel drum bus, and it's getting compressed just a bit more on the master bus. So there's a little bit of dynamics there where there are a couple of accented beats and a couple that are backed off a little bit, but the range isn't so wide that when I get it set at a level, where I can hear the soft beats, the harder beats aren't too hard. Or when I get it set for the louder beats, I'm not losing the softer beats. So I can just have it in a happy medium, and I don't need to really worry about controlling the dynamics. So any compression that I wanted here is more just for tone shaping, bringing out that transient. My attack time is 30 milliseconds, so it's letting plenty of transient through. So any amount that it's turned up from makeup gain, I'm getting 1 or 2 dB of extra attack. You don't have to smash the hell out of every kick drum you
Ignoring
get.
next key time off loading with save.
Let's move on to the snare.
Drums. Aux track.
There's absolutely no processing going on independently on the snare top. The snare bottom, I am just flipping the phase, and I think I have a little bit of high pass filter engaged, maybe around 150, 200 hertz. Just so I'm getting more of the thump from my snare top, but I'm still getting some from my snare bottom.
Snare, aux track.
But most of what's going on is going on my snare bus here. I've got the tape saturation yet again in the A slot.
Real tape saturation.
Literally just set to the snare drum preset. I just wanted it to be, give it a little oomph. Then in my B slot, I have got console 1. See if I have anything in C.
C. Unassigned.
Nope. All right, so I did all of my processing that I want for the snare drum on console 1.
Plugin.
Let's have
Console
a
1. FXT DM edit. In FXT DM edit.
Let's play the snare a little bit so you get an idea of what's going on. All right. Oh, I'm excited by that snare sound. That's nice.
0 points off. 78 hertz. Low cut parameter.
Okay, we got a little low cut going on at 78 hertz.
Off. Tilt normal. Phase off. Shape on parameter. 3.9 D off. Shape on parameter.
Oh, I forgot to turn my shape
Parameter
back on.
on. Out of parameter.
I did
3.9.
actually mix it with the gate on.
Shape soft. Shape hard gate. Parameter.
Okay, it's on soft for the gate.
2.97 S. Shape gate release parameter. 0.0 dB. Shape 4.3 dB. Shape punch parameter.
Okay, console 1 has this really cool thing where you get like a transient designer in your channel strip, which isn't actually in the SSL channel strip, so it's just sort of an added goodie. And when I first bought this thing, I didn't think I would use the transient designer a whole heck of a lot. But I'm going to tell you what, I use this thing all the time. Absolutely all the time. It is fantastic. It sounds great. So what I'm having here is I'm just adding a little bit more attack, the punch.
0.4.3 dB. Shape punch parameter.
And it's pretty aggressive. I'm getting 4.3 dB of extra attack. So I'm going to take the shape in and out so you can hear what this is doing.
2 point soft. 3.9 dB soft. Shape hard gate. Parameter. 2.9 soft. 2 fine. Shape on in parameter.
Don't pay attention to the extra hi-hat you get and whatnot. Just listen to the attack on the snare, the very front end on the snare, so you can see what this transient designer is doing. So this is with it on. You hear a good thwack at the beginning of that snare drum sound. Let's turn it off.
Off.
Back in.
On.
To me, that feels pretty major. That's pretty awesome. Okay, let's move to the EQ.
Parameter. Normal on. Shape on. 2.0 4 point on. Bell. E200 hertz.
We got a boost going on at 200 hertz.
6.0 dB.
Pretty big one too. 6 dB boost at 200 hertz.
0.70 kilohertz. EQ low mid frequency.
Okay, we're cutting a bit on 700.
2.0 EQ low mid Q.
Just a little. This is a pretty good recorded snare. So we're just getting a little.
4.0 dB. EQ low mid gain parameter. 6.0 kilohertz. EQ high mid frequency parameter. 6.0 kilohertz.
We're going to be boosting a lot of top end to get this to cut through the mix.
1.1 EQ high mid Q. 8.3 dB.
8.3.
Shelf. EQ 2.0 kilohertz. EQ
12K shelf up top.
7.9 dB. EQ high gain parameter. You are currently
boosting 7.9 dB of that.
on compound parameter
Okay, the compressor,
3.0 comp ratio
3 to
parameter.
1.
Wet 0% comp parallel drive 18.3 ms comp attack
Faster attack, not uber fast, but definitely faster.
0.13 s comp
And release close to the same as the kick drum.
6.3 dB comp threshold shape EQ comp.
Okay, that's just my process order. And then the drive I just have set to 5 again. This is the snare drum sound. Kick and snare together. Certainly not a bad basis for the anchor drum sounds of a mix. All right, let's check out the overheads. All right, in our overheads, we just have one plug-in. These didn't need a whole heck of a lot of processing. It was a good capture, and Laura is a very balanced drummer. So we just have our console one, which goes across all of my tracks and all of my instrument submix buses, just so you know. So let's have a little listen to the overhead sound here and see what this sounds like. Okay. So even though there's a lot of cymbals in there, she's getting that snare drum hard enough to really cut through. I did take away quite a bit of the kick drum, as you can see, especially that sub frequency in the kick drum.
111 hertz.
We have our low cut set at 111 hertz. Guess I was feeling lucky.
Off. Filters to compressor normal. Phase invert per off. Shape on
we have nothing going on our shape.
0 points on EQ bell E200 hertz EQ low frequency.
Nothing happening in our low band of our EQ.
0.60 kilohertz EQ low mid frequency.
Okay, we have a cut at 600.
2.0 EQ low mid Q per 3.3 dB EQ low mid gain parameter.
Okay, just 3.3 dB, so nothing too drastic.
3.4 kilohertz EQ high mid frequency.
Okay, then we're gonna have another cut at 3.4.
1.7 dB EQ.
Just a small cut, about 1.7 dB. So yeah, nothing too big. And then we have a little bit of a gentle lift up at
shelf 10.0 kilohertz
10K.
2.9 dB EQ high.
2.9. So I guess it's not quite that gentle. It's you know, a little on the aggressive side, but it doesn't. The top end doesn't sound too overcooked to me.
Compound parameter.
Then we just have a little bit of compression to sort of back those snares off just a little bit, because you know she does play with such a good heavy left hand that I find that I get plenty in the overheads, and for a song like this, I wanted a little bit more of my snare sound to come from the close mics on the snare rather than having a large portion of it be from the overheads. I like having some of it from the overheads, of course, because it gives you a sense of space and depth to a certain degree. And speaking of space and depth, I'm actually sending my whole drum bus to a room reverb because, as you can probably tell, the room that I'm in does not sound as good as this reverb. So, but here are the overheads. All I have is just a little bit of compression, low cut, 2 mid-range cuts, and a little bit of a lift. Definitely nothing drastic here. Let's add the kick and the snare in with this. That is a pretty fine drum sound for my little studio.